This is a special report from KSL.
Welcome back. Good to have you along right now. Numbers released just this year show opioid-related deaths in the United States have actually quadrupled in the last 20 years.
A government study revealed that the deaths related to the powerful painkiller fentanyl increased 11-fold over an 11-year span. Just 1,600 deaths reported in 2011, but by 2016, that number had jumped to more than 18,000. Even more alarming, the most significant increase in deaths taking place among teens and young adults. Drugs are impacting all of us, including on our roads.
Yeah, Utah Highway Patrol says they have had to adapt their training, looking for drivers who are impaired by drugs.
Not just prescription opioids, but illegally obtained prescription opioids, heroin, and those things. It was quite common to run into that.
12 years ago in Utah, drivers in fatal crashes tested positive for drugs in 6.5% of the crashes. By 2016, that number was 30%, and deaths resulting from those crashes rose from 20 to 80. The numbers are a good reminder to all of us. Stay off of the roads when using prescription or illegal drugs. Now, crashes aren't the only way drugs are impacting our roads.
Last fall, news specialist Andrew Adams showed us the steps Utah law enforcement are taking to address our interstates becoming a drug pipeline.
Hasn't changed much around these parts since the Old West. The Outlaw Trail, providing cover to the baddest men in the territory. These days, the trail just looks a little different. The outlaws hide in plain sight.
Just waiting for the right vehicles to come across.
And the lawmen,
it's always a little bit of friendly competition,
have to look long and hard just to spot it.
This job takes a lot of patience. Criminal interdiction's a waiting game.
Utah Highway Patrol on this day is on the hunt for people who traffic drugs.
It's constant. We could be out here 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
To the interdiction team,
I hope I'm feeling lucky. We'll see.
It's a by-the-numbers approach.
Over here.
Hoping stops for small traffic violations lead to big seizures.
When they start to find anything.
As troopers find themselves in pursuit of increasingly sophisticated drug traffickers.
They'll take 2 or 3 vehicles and send it through with the load vehicle with the intention of being a decoy.
The entire state is looking at an ever-expanding footprint.
Would it be safe to say that the cartels love Utah? Without sounding derogatory, I would say yes.
The DEA says Utah is no longer a convenient route between borders and coasts. It's now on the map as a destination.
Namely, the Sinaloa cartel and the BLO, Beltran-Leyva organization, those 2 syndicates, namely, have taken a vested interest in Utah.
Salt Lake City's thirst for opioids, agents say, has made it an important market.
And they're pushing very, very high-quality, low-priced, readily available heroin into the streets of Utah.
Combating the problem is complicated. Not just because of the difficulty of pinpointing the cartel's managers here.
Many of their representatives look like me. They're in a coat and tie.
Or even because Utah's entrepreneurial spirit is reflected in its aspiring drug producers.
Manufacturing a very deadly form of counterfeit fentanyl pills.
The Outlaw Trail now has hitching posts at home mailboxes.
People being able to buy their narcotics online, namely the dark web.
The influence of drugs is seen everywhere.
Whether it's car prowls, whether it's burglaries.
Spanning all crimes committed on Salt Lake City's doorstep.
We would arrest 3 or 4 drug dealers in this area. The next day, there would be 3 or 4 brand new ones that had just arrived in the area.
Police believe at least some of the city's street dealers have been victims of human trafficking, originating from nations like Honduras.
A lot of times, there's a debt incurred, and human traffickers will use that debt and hold that debt over someone's head to make them do illegal work.
Agents say a solution isn't exactly on the horizon.
As long as Americans keep using illegal drugs, the cartels will still have a job.
It's a job the cartels continue to do too well, despite the best efforts of the lawmen on Utah's frontier.
You can go an entire day, stop 30, 40 cars a day, and you may not come across somebody involved in the criminal activity.
Despite the odds against them.
Richfield 331, I'll be clear.
This posse is tirelessly watching and waiting, trying to make the trail of the outlaw a little less hospitable.
But our troopers remain persistent. They come out the following day and just keep at it.
Andrew Adams, KSL 5 News.
Andrew, thank you. And here's a startling statistic from the DEA. More than 80% of Utah's heroin users started with prescription pills. Coming up next, see some of the steps that have been taken in Utah and across the nation addressing the opioid crisis and the effects it's having on all of us.
Utah lawmakers recently passed a resolution calling on the Drug Enforcement Administration to approve a pilot program placing prescription drop-off boxes in all pharmacies. Currently, the state has more than 150 drop boxes, all placed in local law enforcement offices around our state. Utah leaders are looking to our neighbors to the north as they work to address the opioid crisis.
Yeah, in Canada, they are taking a different approach, not treating it as a criminal and a moral issue.
We think it's better to not treat it as a criminal and a moral issue, but look at why are people struggling in the first place, treat it as a health issue. And if you reduce that stigma, people are able to come in and talk more openly.
Yeah, one of the unique approaches being taken by the Toronto Overdose Prevention Society is opening drug consumption rooms or overdose prevention sites. It is a place people can bring their pre-obtained drug and then use them in a place with medically trained staff to help out in case of an overdose. Utah health officials say Utah is not really ready for something like that, but it is something to consider.
It's a conversation, so it's all about educating the public and policymakers about evidence-based practices to address the opioid epidemic.
State epidemiologist Angela Dunn says nationally this is a conversation already taking place. Instagram has taken steps to address the opioid crisis in our country. Company says people often use the app to find addiction support groups and illegal drugs. Well, now if users search specific hashtags or accounts, a pop-up will show on the screen, directing users to information pages on just how they can find help for themselves or for loved ones. We'll be right back. All right, if you missed any of tonight's coverage or need more information on resources available to those who are struggling with addiction, head to our newly updated KSL TV app and click on the Healthy Mind Matters link.
Thanks for staying up with us. Have a great weekend as we go from spring to winter and then almost back to spring.
Right on back.
In a few days. Good night.